afternoon. Welcome back to the Hardline. I'm Miranda Kahn. Hillary Clinton's record resurfaces concerns about whether she's fit to be president.
Hillary Clinton took a nasty fall as she boarded her plane.
From falling to coughing, Hillary Clinton's health has long been the center of speculation.
In 1998, she reportedly had a blood clot in her leg. In 2005, stomach virus and faints before a speech.
But it was Clinton's infamous fall in 2012 after fainting that most remember.
It was, I think, a serious concussion.
That concussion landed the former Secretary of State in the hospital, where she says doctors later revealed an even scarier ailment.
The bad news is you've developed a clot behind your right ear, and you must immediately go to the hospital because we have to immediately put you on blood thinners. I had, because of the force of the fall, I had double vision for a short period of time, and I had some dizziness.
Clinton has since maintained that she's recovered and in good health.
No lingering effects
of any kind.
But emails like this one from Huma Ahmadine, a longtime aide of Clinton, has called her health back into question.
She also lacks the mental and physical stamina to take on ISIS.
Now, Clinton, as far as we know, continues to take blood thinners as a precaution against blood clots, and according to her doctor, suffers from hypothyroidism and seasonal allergies. Ed, back to you.
All right, thanks, Miranda. That sets us up nicely as we turn to this edition of The Political Animal. Our panel begins with a staunch conservative broadcaster whose syndicated commentary can be read and heard as a contributor at The Federalist, The National Review, and here on Newsmax, Ben Weingarten. And he's joined by veteran Democratic strategist, communications consultant, and former senior aide to Senator Charles Schumer, Michael Tobman. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. Ben, let's go ahead and get to you first. Is this a big deal?
Well, look, I mean, the bottom line is that when we vet our presidential candidates, we have to look at them holistically. We have to look at every element of their lives and their backgrounds. And to Donald Trump's point, this Hillary Clinton's ailments play perfectly into his narrative of Donald Trump being the strong candidate, Hillary Clinton being the weak candidate. And the fact of the matter is that on the merits, the health and fitness of a president really does matter. We've seen historical episodes where, for example, Woodrow Wilson was incapacitated for months on end during his presidency, and his wife, in effect, was running the White House. And while Americans might like the prospect of Bill Clinton effectively serving as president again, the fact of the matter is that it is a very legitimate question as to the health and physical fitness of our presidential candidates.
So, Ben, let's get to that, the health and physical fitness of our presidential candidates, because let's face it, neither one of these two candidates are going to be out running 100-yard wind sprints anytime soon. And you do have an issue here, several issues that have come up, to be honest. Now, granted, I'm going to say that there are some websites using pictures of Hillary Clinton falling down that they say were recent. They're not. They were back in February, so we're still looking at some of those old ones here. But should the campaign not be concerned about this and try to do something to quelch all these rumors about her physical fitness?
Well, I think to the degree to which it becomes an issue where you see in the
Let me get to that. Hang on, Michael, because I wanted to get to Ben on that one. Ben, please go ahead.
Yeah, to the
okay, I'm sorry, they misidentified you. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I got a problem here on the two of these. My mistake. Ben, I got to you. Michael, let me come to you on this one next. I wanted to give you a fair shot.
Sure, no problem. Michael and Ben, it's an easy confusion. We are decades and generations.
No, it's okay. I haven't fallen down, but I can get up. It's okay.
It's all good. We are decades and generations past FDR getting out of the wheelchair and reporters looking the other way while he fixes leg braces, or even JFK suffering from Addison's disease and getting shots into his spine and into his back. I actually do believe that the commander-in-chief and the president's health and physical fitness is a fair issue, but we need to be very, very careful, especially when we're dealing with the first female candidate from a major political party, that this not traipse into gender inequity and talk about women's health and somehow her health is being held to a different standard than it would be Donald Trump's or Ronald Reagan, for that matter, in his second term. So we need to be very, very careful about how this is couched and the language that we use. I think I'm in the minority of Democratic consultants and Clinton supporters who believe this is a fair line of inquiry, but we need to be very, very careful with the language that we use.
But they do need to get ahead of this. This is here, and it's real when you get to be that age.
I don't know that we want to say at this age. Many of us are approaching that age. And, all right.
I'll get in trouble for it.
It's a real issue.
We're still looking at people who are late 60s, early 70s, and they are going to lead the country. It is something that needs to be looked at. Here's the second thing we're going to look at today. The Hill is reporting today that Hillary Clinton's campaign doesn't feel it needs to put a bigger dent in Donald Trump's core support of white blue-collar men. Now, granted, there are those people who are coming out and saying Hillary Clinton doesn't need white men. That's not what they're saying here. They're saying that they believe they have enough. And don't they really, in many ways, Michael, admit here that they're not going to make a dent in the white male support for Donald Trump?
I think, and I'm a lawyer as well, so I'm reminded of what a motion for summary judgment is, which is you say even all the facts being accepted as they are, and we don't concede that they are, we're still going to win. There's still no case here. That being said, yes, what they're saying is take a hard look at the numbers, and in some areas where there's an expectation that a certain demographic is predisposed to supporting her opponent, even if we didn't get any of those, we would still win, which of course is not saying that Vice President Biden, who speaks well to that demographic, isn't going to be campaigning aggressively for that vote. But what they're saying is more about Donald Trump's perceived strengths than about Hillary Clinton's perceived weaknesses. They're certainly not conceding any vote. They're just pointing out the numerical reality.
Ben, is it just that it's that numerical reality right here? Because we have seen time and time again that the numbers tell us that the white male vote is Donald Trump, so maybe they just need to move on at this point, realize they're not going to get a chance at it?
Well, the Clinton campaign's big data operation, like the campaign that preceded it in Obama's two presidential elections, is very strong. They've built up a very detailed network with all sorts of analytics on potential voters. And clearly what it shows is that her message is not compelling and not appealing, apparently, to white voters. I would say, looking at it from the other perspective, if Donald Trump was smart, he would be thinking very carefully about the fact that the very core constituencies that Hillary Clinton is going to go after are the ones who have suffered the most under Democratic policies really for 50 years. So this is an opportunity for Donald Trump to kind of turn the tables on Hillary Clinton if he seizes the moment and puts forth a compelling message on economics, national security, and police.
Here comes the other thing, because Hillary Clinton, they're talking about the vote right now. Now, she was in Philadelphia today. She's urging the supporters to get out there, register to vote, and then we're going to follow up. Here's what she said.
This is the most consequential election. The stakes could not be higher. And we want everybody in Philadelphia, everybody across Pennsylvania, to be part of a great victory in November and then the future that we're going to build together.
Michael, there's a lot of controversy today about whom she wants to vote because the Washington Examiner headlined Hillary drafts illegal dreamers to get immigrants to vote, which is false, quite frankly, because the dreamers do not have the right to vote if they were brought here illegally as children. But is it not fair to say, Michael, that they want to go after them? They want to put them up there as a storyline, and they believe that this is going to help them in the vote overall with the Hispanic community.
You know the old adage, you rob banks because that's where the money is. You go after certain areas, and again, we're coming back to the demographic reality, is that Secretary Clinton needs to run up the vote in urban areas and urban pockets of swing states. So that's where she will be driving energy and driving attention and trying to move the needle in terms of the number of Democrats registering, who the expectation is will come out in November in droves and support her candidacy. Clearly, it is not in the Secretary's interest to do what's called a blind poll, which is to just say nationally everybody should register and everybody should vote. And while certainly that's a civic benefit, you want to speak to your demographic base and people you anticipate and expect will support you. So she will be in areas where, again, using that term demographic reality, suggests she has the strongest support.
Ben, let's look at demographic reality with about a minute to go here. Some of the numbers we see in the different polls tell us that Donald Trump couldn't buy an African-American vote if he tried, because he's absolutely not going to get them. And a lot of the numbers tell us that he will not get an Hispanic vote anywhere in America today. I guess the two-edged question is, do you believe the polls, and what's he going to do to turn that around? What can he do?
Well, first, let me just preface this by saying I'm sure Hillary Clinton wants people in places like Philadelphia to vote early, vote often 2, 3, and 4 times. So let's just start right there. As for Donald Trump and making inroads with constituencies where he's polling very poorly, again, I think what he has to do, and it's the right thing to do both politically and in terms of policy, is go to places where he is not popular and make a compelling case that what has been going on for 50 years in the Democratic establishment has ruined all the urban areas where Hillary Clinton expects to pick up 90% and sometimes more of the votes. If he can craft a message which is about prosperity and security, it's worth doing regardless of whether or not it makes a 5% dent or not.
And gentlemen, we are still at the point where we got a long way to go in the messaging here. It's still far from November, but as I pointed out at the top of the show here tonight, 6 weeks and the early voting starts in some states. And then right behind that, you've got some major states with some big electoral numbers that are going to be going to the early voting. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton cannot waste any time. They don't have until November. Michael Tobman, Ben Weingarten, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. I look forward to having you on the show once again. And I promise the next time I will get everybody right here, and I will not fall, and I will be able to get up. There you go. All right, gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us.
2 good-looking guys, thank you.
There you go. 2 good-looking guys. You should have said 3. I'm going to hold that against you. How to waste your tax dollars, put a full-blown health crisis into motion, next.